live on Instagram right now. Hello, Instagram. Hi. Hi. My friend Angeline is back in the house. She has been a guest on this show multiple times. She shared her story. We did this whole like chat about Johnny Depp, the whole Johnny Depp thing, and abuse, directed towards men. We are equal opportunity on Hot Topics Live podcast, whether you're a male or female. Abuse happens, right? Domestic violence happens. Narcissists can be men, narcissists can be women, right? So this episode is for you if you are going through any of that kind of stuff, or you're just in a struggle in your life and you want to know how to shift things. So before we get started, I'd like to ask you for a little favor. I noticed that more and more people are starting to watch Hot Topics Live podcast. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Please subscribe and like. A like is free. It's just a way that you can help me grow. And the more I grow, the more I can get incredible guests to come and talk to you and share their expertise so that you can grow. This podcast is about transformation. It's about living your best life possible. And it is your reminder that you are amazing. Amazing. Just because you exist. And you deserve to be living your most empowered, your most delicious, juicy, wonderful, amazing life. And it all starts with you. But sometimes we have limiting beliefs and we're in this story that we're telling ourselves that we can't have it, we don't deserve it, we're unworthy, we're not enough. And this podcast exists to remind you that you are and to help you with some real strategies, techniques, and steps to help you get there. We talk about all different topics here on Hot Topics Live podcast. And we love sharing with you ways to live a better life and stories of people who are doing that. And my guest today, Angeline, is one of those people. So without further ado, I'm going to bring her on. Hello.
Hello. So great to see you again. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to have you, Angeline. So, a lot of people don't know, we met a few years ago doing a book club on Facebook. It was called Open Books, Open Minds. You probably can still find it. And we were reading a Joe Dispenza book, and we really bonded over that topic because we love breaking the habit of being yourself, right? And that's all about changing your mindset and changing the story you're telling yourself and your habits to, enjoy life more, be more successful, have better love in your life, whatever it is you're looking for, how to do it. And it starts with you, right? So we had fun bonding over that. And then I'm really proud of this. So I hope you don't mind if I share. But because of that, we discussed a podcast. Now, I coach podcasting. If you don't know that, it's one of the things that I coach. I'm currently working on my certification for life coaching also. And so I'm excited to be able to bring that to the table as well. We're expanding our coaching. And so Angeline wanted to start a podcast. So in one day, in one afternoon, I taught her how to launch her podcast. And that was, which is, I say that in one day because it's incredible. It was typically an 8-week process. Sometimes I teach it over 3 months. Even I'll do like little accelerators or little cohorts for like 3 months, teaching them how to get their podcast up and running. And Angeline learned this in one afternoon in like a couple of hours. And she's been podcasting ever since. Her podcast is called Let's Break the Silence. It's all about sharing your story of surviving domestic violence, because people aren't really, you don't hear this in mainstream media, but it's an epidemic that's silent. I think they call it a silent epidemic. What do you think about that, Angeline?
Yes, and I agree with you. It is a silent epidemic. No one wants to talk about it, including our legislatures. They want to shove it under the carpet. And and by the way, I want to thank you for giving me that crash course on starting a podcast, because I launched my podcast and you were my guest, and I'm going to bring you back as a guest on mine. But yes,
thank you.
Yes, it's an epidemic. people do not want to talk about it. And this, this is one of the reasons why I started my podcast, based on a vision, because I'm a visionary. And my vision is to help women amplify their voices, break their silence, share their real life stories on my podcast of how they overcame domestic violence. And a lot of those women are in coaching, or they're best-selling authors now, speakers. So they found the way through resources and through mentorship. Like I did, I sought mentorship because I was holding on to beliefs that were holding me back way too long. And I'm so happy and grateful that we connected on Open Mind, because Joe Dispenza is amazing. And based on that book and what he writes, I was able to break through those self limiting beliefs. In other words, stop lying to yourself. Because we are, especially, women who are in domestic violence or have transitioned out of domestic violence, and they're looking to find their purpose. We've been conditioned to believe that we are not worthy and we don't have a voice.
So true.
And I was able, so during that mentorship, I went live, and I used to be the biggest chicken of Facebook Lives. And this is before I started my podcast. So I went live in March of 2018, took the phone in my one bedroom apartment, my phone's shaking, I'm shaking because I'm sweating and I'm starting to cry. But I shared my story because a lot of people didn't know my story. And
Wow.
when I opened up my whole soul and my story to the world, 7 million views later.
Wow.
And that means 7 million people were impacted. All because my mentor said, "You have not shared your story yet. You haven't opened up, and you haven't shared your story." People want to know. People want to get to know, like, and trust you. They want to get to know, who is Angeline, who is, because she wants to do this. She has a vision for starting a podcast to break the silence on domestic violence. And so he said go live, so I did. And I went, it was 7 million views later, and that opened up a whole new world for me. And when you do that, when you open that's, talk about breaking through, talk about a breakthrough. And breaking through, that was a self-limiting belief that was holding me back. Because as I was growing up and raised, we were, especially the women, shh, be quiet, don't tell anybody. Doesn't work that way. We have a voice. And I was in a domestic violence marriage for the last 15 years of the last 10 years of my marriage. It fell apart. And one of the things that I had to do was take ownership and recognize that my marriage was toxic and abusive. So that's the first thing I had to do, recognize that.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes back to 2010. In May of 2010, I woke up, I had an awakening. I and woke up out of bed, and I said, you know what? That's it. What good is the money if I'm miserable? So I drove to Poughkeepsie, New York. I hired an attorney, and I wrote out a check for $5,000. And I had to borrow that money.
Wow. The thing about your story that has always just really touched me so much is that now I will preface this by saying Angeline has shared her story a few times on this podcast. The episodes are on YouTube. You can just go through and find Angeline. She appears. If you love her today, go and watch all of the episodes. I think it's like 5 or 6 now that she's
Yes.
appeared.
Yes.
And we did a little thing on Instagram. We did a little bit part of a book that we did until our schedules got too busy. Well, maybe we'll pick that book up, but it was about verbal abuse. You can find that on the Hot Topics Live Instagram page. Those of you on Instagram watching, you can look there and you'll find it. And the history, like scroll down. but she's there. She's here, and she shared her podcast, or she shared her story and on this podcast. And it's just such a powerful story of overcoming abuse, because I will never forget it, certainly, because I always think about how you were in this marriage, and there was not just domestic, it's not just physical violence that was
Mhm.
happening to you, but it was financial abuse, and it was emotional and mental abuse. These are all types of abuse on and it's all about power and control. That's what abuse is about, and manipulation, right? Which is
Yes.
all part of maintaining dominance and control. Basically it's a power imbalance, and someone is trying to perpetuate that. And when you started to wake up to that, your partner, after 10 years of marriage with no violence, like no physical violence in it, he just breaks your nose,
Oh yeah.
you know, and that to me is just appalling, right? Because it's like, I think we want to feel safe, right? This is like a big need for everyone to feel
Exactly.
safe in our romantic partnerships or in our family relationships. And you're almost like lulled into a false sense of safety for all of these years, thinking you know a person, you sleep with them, you lay down with them every night,
Mhm.
and then one day they're just a monster. They're just this violent animal out of nowhere. And there's so many levels to that, shattering your trust and shattering that safety. And
Mhm.
then it continues. So I'm just so um just touched and moved by how much strength it took for you to borrow that money, to get out of there, and to decide no more, you
Mhm.
know. It's just so incredible. I think you're such an inspiration.
Thank
And it's because I know how hard it is to do. It's hard to get out of your comfort zone. It's
you. Oh, it
hard
is.
to walk away from everything you know. It's hard to do that, and these women and men that have to run away from these relationships sometimes have to live in a shelter. I know you had to you had to stay with people. People had to help you. You needed a
Right,
support
exactly.
system.
I called the gypsy life for
Mhm.
1 year, staying in people's houses, motel rooms. I mean, it was, and I basically had no place to live. So I am grateful that I had friends at that time to help me carry through. Some of them had to pay for my hotel room or my, motel room. So I could be away from the abuser because I spoke up, and I spoke up to the authorities, to the New York State Police, to the local sheriff's office. And I spoke up and I said, I cannot live like this. And they did not disagree with me. I had the support because, number one, I did not rescind my protective order. And that's one of the things that some women who I know fall into that trap. The abuser becomes lovey dovey after an incident. Oh, come back. Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be fine. And I remember the authorities told me, the sheriff, and we had a meeting. I was coming back from Long Island. So he said, before you go back home, because they had served a protective order on him, it was a limited protective order. He, the sheriff said, I want you to meet me here at this time. I said, okay. So I drove back, and he said, if you rescind the protective order, we're not going to help you. Oh, yeah. He was straight. He like told me straight out. And I'm like, and we met at like a local coffee shop. He called it, because I was nervous going home and everything. And lo and behold, when I went home that afternoon, he started to become lovey dovey again. Oh, yeah, after being tormenting me. And that's one of the that's when I drove to the courthouse. I drove to family court to get a protective order first. So he said a lot, and he educated me. He said a lot of women in your situation, they fall into this trap where they become lovey-dovey. Oh, you don't need the protective order anymore. Everything's going to be fine. Like, oh no. No, 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 no. So he started that, and guess what? I didn't fall for it. Nope. I stood my ground. And that wasn't easy, but I stood my ground. I
That's so
said, I am
amazing.
keeping my protective order, and that's it. So that's it. So don't talk to me anymore.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I can just imagine. I mean, it's easy. I've been in
Mm,
challenging relationships. Nothing that was like physically abusive, but definitely
mhm.
verbally abusive. And or you have a partner who is an addict or an alcoholic, or but it's creating problems in your relationship, and you hear that so often where they're like, I promise it's going to be better. I'm not going to be like this. It's going to be different now. I'll quit doing this, or I won't do that anymore. And then for a time things are better, and then suddenly those behaviors start to resurface
Mhm.
again. And I can see in your situation where, had you dropped that order of protection, that man probably could have killed you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The sheriff saved me. The deputy saved me. And he was 100% right because he was on his good behavior for about a week or two. And then everything started to come back again. And I said, oh, no, I cannot do this. I said, nope, I'm not having it. And he locked me out of the house a few times. I had to call the sheriff's office. They helped me. And I had to get a locksmith to break the lock so I could go into the house and retrieve my belongings because I was close to the tail end of my moving up here to Saratoga because I I made a plan to leave, and I made an exit plan, and I went back to the house about a week before to get my belongings. So the New York State Police came, and they ordered him to leave for 2 hours. She has to be, and they knew my situation, and I kept them abreast of what was going on. So I said, I'm moving in 2 weeks, so I need to get my belongings so I could go back to the place where I'm staying right now because I was going back and forth.
Hmm.
And oh no, he made up a story, and they were all over him. He wasn't arrested, but but they told him, they ordered him to leave for 2 hours, and I left, and or he left, and then I was able to go in, pack all my things up, and then, you know, move out. And then on the last day, I was able to get everything out. I made my plan. I had a witness there, so I could have protection. And so the movers came. They moved all my belongings, and I moved to Saratoga Springs in a small one-bedroom apartment, not where I am now, but in a small one-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. So
Yeah.
I was very grateful. I still am very grateful to this day that I had people and friends to help me. That's another, have a plan, and let people know what's going on because people cannot read your mind. I mean, I had a friend who helped me find a mover in literally a week. I said, I have to move. I said, I got to get
Yeah.
out of here. So the plan was in place and everything worked out. And then once I moved in, once I escaped and I drove up to Saratoga, I was the happiest person. I felt like 50,000 pounds was lifted off my shoulders. Oh, I can finally go home to peace and harmony.
Mhm.
And during that time, also, I learned to love on myself. Love yourself, meaning my mentor taught me to love myself. So I started going to yoga classes. I started to partake of activities up here so I could, make new friends because this was totally new for me. I was married for 25 years, totally, a total of 25 years. And thankfully, I had a caseworker who worked with me for 1 year from Battered Women's Services, and I had an excellent lawyer. Fortunately, we did not have children, so that made the process a lot easier. So after I left, there was no looking back. I never looked back.
So you talk to a lot of women on your podcast
Mhm.
that have had all types of experience. And I know when I interview people, one of the reasons I love doing this is I learn so much from them. And I know that your situation, you, like you said, you had an excellent lawyer, you went to people to get support, you put a plan in place. Definitely have a plan in place. But my question would be, I guess, for people who have been isolated, because a lot of abusers isolate their
Mm.
victims, and they like make up stories so that they stop speaking to their family, and they make up stories to make them stop speaking to their friends. And um, what advice would you offer to people in that type of situation where maybe they don't have money or they don't have any a
Mm.
support system anymore because they've completely given everything and all of their time and attention to the abuser?
That's a good question. And actually, that happened to me because I found out that he was talking behind my back. He actually wrote letters to the New York State Police admonishing me, putting me down. He wrote letters to the Dutchess County Mental Health Department because I was working with a therapist for 1 year. They didn't believe him. So, oh, yeah, he wrote letters. Oh, yeah, it was really bad. So talk about so talk about like I was at a loss. I was like, now where do I go? So so for resources for domestic violence survivors, I helped a couple of women here who were in that same situation, So I asked them, Google in your area domestic violence shelters and any assistance. So, because they needed a place to live, and both of them had one child. I remember this. So, when they both reached out to me, they were like basically in a panic, frantic, which is understandable because they had no place to go and they were not, but they wanted to leave. So, I said, this is what you do. I said, I Googled it, I sent them the information, and 24 to 48 hours later, they both contacted me and said, we found a place to live.
That's
That made me
awesome.
feel so good. I'm like, oh my goodness. Was what however I said it or like I said it. You know what it is? I empowered them.
Hmm.
First of all, you don't need to live like this anymore. You deserve better in your life. So even if you find like a one bedroom apartment or a studio, this one girl, she found a studio. She was very happy. She was like, I am so happy right now. And I know the feeling. And both of them found shelter. And one of them I know was doing very well. And this was in New York City, right when the pandemic hit,
Wow.
and that's when everything shut down. But then she found out because she did a little bit more investigating. She said that there was a shelter that was open, but she said that like it's so limited. I said I don't know who to call now. I am like, she was frantic, but then 20, 48 hours later, she found a place. They were
Oh,
able
that's
to give
amazing.
her housing. So there are resources for domestic violence survivors. The Coalition on Domestic Violence, if you call the hotline, they will help you. Um, I know for myself, I had a caseworker who worked with me, and I just reached out to friends because fortunately, I surrounded myself with, good people who were willing to help and not expect anything in return.
I think the pandemic was a time where domestic violence went rampant because
It
people
went
were
rampant. It
trapped, right? And I remember we did an episode during that time and we were talking
did.
about it because we were so worried, and no one was talking about it, as they still don't.
No.
But I think a lot of people, it's not it's to say that you can transform your life, and that can begin in a shelter. You can, if you have no one in your life, it's a matter of making that decision to say enough is enough. I'm not going to take this anymore. I do deserve better. My mom used to have this saying, I can do bad all by myself. I don't, if I'm going to do bad in life, it should be my choice to do that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not someone else doing it to me. So if someone is holding me down, is causing me distress, is causing me to struggle and suffer in my life, then I owe it to myself, if they're not going to change, um, to escape that situation.
Right.
And your transformation to living your best life can start in a shelter. Being in a shelter can be the beginning of your new life, your better life,
Right.
right?
Exactly. Exactly.
So it's,
Basically, that was me.
yeah,
And I
it's,
went to a shelter once, and I didn't feel ashamed, and I had to let go of that pride and ego and recognize, okay, you
because you
can
guys were
build your
wealthy. You guys were
Mhm.
super wealthy, right? Like
Super
you had this
wealthy. I went from
luxurious
super
lifestyle.
wealthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Went from wealthy to broke, but I was not broken. Big, huge
Mm.
difference right there. I was not broken.
Wow. I love that you said that. That's powerful.
Yeah, I was not broken because I had the vision and a plan in place. And I said to myself, I am going to rebuild my life. You can rebuild your life from, I've seen so many people do it, men and women, rebuild their lives from being broke and homeless to now living the life that they truly deserve to live because they sought the tools and the resources. They sought mentorship like I did. I sought mentorship and I became, I'm sorry, involved in the online space on Facebook. There was no TikTok at the time. So I found a way. I found the way. And that was my process of rediscovery. And then I had aligned myself with people who were on a higher level than me. And I still do it to this day because coaching and mentorship is important for me because that's how you grow as a person. And when you move from victimhood to claiming victory in your life, the world of abundance opens up. And I focus on gratitude. I do my meditation every morning. And, I've gone through challenges in my life as well. I've gone through many challenges, even after the fact. I've gone through challenges and I found a way to overcome those challenges. And because when you move yourself from the I used to write a blog, so I had a blog post one time and I wrote from the depths of despair to freedom and liberation because that's how I felt. See, I came from that dark place.
Yeah.
I came from that dark place to reclaiming my life back, my independence, because I wanted my independence back. And I did. I achieved it. It took me a year, but I did it. I achieved it. So, and I had to break through those mental blocks because, like I stated before, we've been conditioned to believe that we are not worthy. We've been told, oh, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. You're not going to survive. I did. Survived and thriving.
I love that. I think a lot of times too, people think that they're all alone, like when they've been isolated
Mm.
and all their loved ones, they're not in their life, right? And I think sometimes they suspect what's happening to you if they don't outright know. So
Right.
I think sometimes you think you don't have anybody, but if you reach back out to some of the people, your family or your friends that you've isolated yourself from, they might even suspect or even know what you're going through and not want to overstep or are waiting for you to come to them. So don't rule that out. And definitely don't rule out starting from the bottom and starting over,
Right.
right? Because
Exactly.
it's possible. And your freedom from this type of toxic connection is so important, and you can thrive. You can shift that. I love how you said from victimhood to victory. I love that because you can come from a victim to a survivor to a thriver and then turn
Right.
around and help other people and allow your story to be someone else's survival guide, like all of your guests on Let's Break the Silence.
Mm.
I love that. And I want to talk about some of your greatest takeaways from that podcast before we dive into your book and how you can
Sure.
help people empower themselves.
Yes. My podcast is thriving in 13 countries right now, 5 years later. Thank you. I have over 4,000 downloads. It's increasing. So now, you know, my podcast is about helping women amplify their voice because we are change makers and way makers. No more silence, I call it. No more silence. It's time to open yourself up and share your story. And my podcast, I've had guests who have gone through domestic violence, and maybe they're not where they want to be, but they're not where they used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So they've opened up, shared their stories. I have a private Facebook community, and my goal is to scale my Facebook community to 1,000 members. So right now I have 251 members in my group, and some of them have shared their like I know myself, I love poetry, and there's a lot of women, I help them find what their true passion is. What lights you up? And a lot of them love to paint, a lot of them love to write poetry, share stories, and some of them have been shared on my podcast. I've also had men share their stories too. So
Yes.
I had an attorney. He actually has a podcast, and I'm going to be now his special guest tonight, sharing my story of overcoming domestic violence. So today is someday, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's tonight, which I'm really, really super excited about. And he was my guest 2 weeks ago, and he brought light on bail reform, the injustices, meaning the abusers are being let out of jail way too early.
Wow.
And that puts the woman into, forget it, into, yeah,
Just an
just,
unimaginable
yeah,
fear and
a
terror.
fear. Like, I know one of my friends, she was so scared that she goes, I hope he doesn't come back to the house, because he was just recently let out of prison.
Oh
And
my God.
yeah, but she's moving, so that's good. So I'm glad that she made a plan to move up, to move. She's going to move to Florida with her family. So that's going to be good for her. So she's looking for a place. And I said, you know what? Even if you have to find an Airbnb, go ahead. Just, you have a roof over your head, you know? So, um, yeah, so it's been quite a journey for my podcast. And, I bring real life stories of people, women and men, who have gone through domestic violence. And men are afraid, some are afraid to share their stories. So I had one man who shared his story a year and a half ago. I remember it was a year and a half ago. He was abused by his father, and then he overcame, and now he travels. So he
Wow.
shared his whole journey. And I understand that men, there's a stigma, meaning with men, they have to, there's like I don't know, I can't think of the name, but they have to be like strong and not say anything. But I've seen, more men open up and show their vulnerability that
Mm.
they were in a past. And it doesn't have to be a marriage, just a toxic relationship.
Yeah.
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 I mean, there was a man who came forward for about 3 weeks ago and shared his story, not on my podcast, but privately, about his whole situation with his ex-girlfriend. They would go out for a walk, and she would all of a sudden hit him for no reason.
Oh my
Yeah, they
God.
were walking the dog. Yeah.
Jeez, that's so
And
crazy.
she put him down, and, that's awful. That's awful. So men have a voice too.
Yeah, and I love it when a man speaks up. I
Me
have two
too.
brothers. They definitely have had their share of women that were unfortunate, I will say.
Right.
And so I know that, women can be trifling. And just sometimes they can be even worse than men in different
True.
ways. And I have a large male audience, and that's why I always like to include this
Good.
because you know, it is, men don't like to speak up, like you said, because there's a stigma associated with them being weak, and they don't want to appear. They think, who's going to believe me? Oh, they're going to make fun of me, and other men probably will. Those men, some of them are probably abusing their wives, right? So, I mean, it's not funny, but like really, because that's
Yeah.
probably what's going on, you know? So it's so much harder for men. Even, you know, the stories about military sexual trauma that
Mm,
I talk about on the Female Veterans podcast, my other podcast, right? And that's where women come share their stories. But there's also men who have experienced military sexual trauma, but because it's less reported, and also the ones that report, there are less of them, they don't make as big of a fuss about this thing that happens, but it happens,
it
you know.
does.
There's all types of things that happen in the military that are not what you would expect to be happening in the military. And it happens to men. Bullying,
Oh yeah,
harassment, military sexual trauma, stalking, and they're perpetuated by both men and women. So
exactly.
so it's important for us to have this platform to say, like, if you're a man going through this applies to you too. You know, you're not excluded from this. We know that you go through it too. You know, we know that there are some horrible females out there,
Oh yeah,
and that, you know, you have a voice, and it's a safe space for you to share and be supported as well. So I want to shift a little bit, because
sure.
we've spoke a lot about your story and the podcast and how you help people, so people understand like how deep into the commitment is for you to help people shift from victim to victorious, right?
Right.
So I want to talk about your book. Tell me, how did this happen?
Here it is, everyone. The
Oh,
Change
it's
book
wonderful.
series. So this book series with Les Brown on the front cover, I was contacted. So Les Brown wrote the foreword of this book,
I saw that. It's incredible. If you don't
which
know who
is
Les Brownen is, get from under a rock and Google him right
yes,
now. Well, wait
right
till the
now.
podcast is done and then Google him.
Google him, yes, because
Yes.
Les Brown actually, when
Incredible.
I was going through my transition out of domestic violence, I looked up to Les Brown. I would listen to Les Brown, and I still listen to Les Brown to this day. But Les
That's
Brown
great.
is amazing because I'll never forget what he said. What he said, if you can look up, you can get up.
Mm.
And that's when that was the time when I fell flat on my back after I was hit, I was struck. You know, I thank the Lord for saving me that night because that could have been, I could have been killed and just dead right on the spot. So I just thank the good Lord that, like when I wake up in the morning, I am very grateful to be alive. As long as I have air in my lungs and I can breathe, I can, we can make an impact on people's lives. So this book was introduced by the publishers, and I will show them it. Jim Britt and Jim Lutz. So they spearheaded this book series, which is in 32 countries in North America, Asia, Europe, the UK, United States, of course, and Canada. So it is in 32 countries, including my homeland in Greece. And their assistant approached me last year in June, right before I was leaving for Chicago on a personal trip, like a vacation. So they approached me and they said, you would be a great addition to our book series. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, because we love what you're doing, empowering women, empowering domestic violence survivors to amplify their voices and helping them transform into the person who they truly are, rediscovery. So they asked me to share my story. So I am a published author with my colleagues. So this is book 20 that is out right now. So there's actually 20 authors in here with Les Brown on the front cover. See, forward by Les Brown and Jim Lutz and Jim Britt are the publishers, and Jim Britt worked with Jim Rohn. And
Wow.
Jim Lutz
That's
is
incredible.
also, he also does mastermind speaking events. It's called the Deep Dive Mastermind event. So right before the book was released, he invited me to speak at the penthouse, at his penthouse in front of 75 people.
How wonderful.
Yeah, so everything is like everything can happen, everything can change just like that. And I can tell you this, people are watching us. People are watching us. They may not like and comment on your posts on Facebook, but because I'm putting myself out there on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok now, I made another connection this morning on TikTok. Oh my God, I'm just like, yeah, like it is opening up new doors. So I'm in, so one of the, I like to read a passage out of my chapter.
Be awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so we all have choices. What a beautiful thing. I soon grew empowered and not only seeking refuge and healing by surrounding myself with positive, outgoing, and caring people, but also to inspire and support others to do the same. Relocating to Saratoga has captured this essence for me. And that was, that's like at the beginning of the chapter. So it starts on page 146. So
Beautiful.
it runs about 3 pages, and there is an introduction of me right here on page 143.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so it's and I also would like to read this passage. It's a short one. Okay. The turning point in Angeline's life occurred when she courageously left her abusive relationship, transitioning from victim to victor. This pivotal moment ignited a personal growth journey where she crafted a new life plan and established a community founded on trust and security. Throughout the process, Angeline discovered the strength and unity, realizing she was not alone on her transformative path.
Wow. It's
That's
amazing.
powerful.
It is. It
Yes.
really is. And what a great message to send out to people because they
Thank you.
need to know that they can do it. And you're trailblazing and setting an example
Right,
by
exactly.
being open and vulnerable and sharing how people can do this. And as a coach, how do you help people to empower themselves and to turn from victim to victor? I want to talk about your coaching.
Yes, my coaching, I take them through my 9 signature process. So it is a 9 week program. It's designed to help you release those past wounds that have been holding you back, that have left you feeling overwhelmed, lost, inferior. So I take them from a place of feeling overwhelmed, inferior, lost, to rediscovering themselves and empowering them to step into their divine power and identity. And these are all the tools that I learned from Joe Dispenza when we were, yeah, these are all the tools that I've implemented.
This is
Stripping away those self-limiting beliefs. We're peeling the onion here. That's not easy. That's the tough part. Doing the inner work and the shadow work. So I take them, so I show them how to do that. And it's a 9 week program. And I know that the women who have signed up for my program, my coaching clients, have experienced transformations, healing. One of them was able to travel to the Philippines to spend time with her family, and that was very empowering because she hadn't traveled in a long time, in a long, long time. And
wow.
one of my other clients, she was able to shed her self-limiting beliefs that were holding her back, and now she wrote a book and it's going to be published soon. So you see what I mean?
Incredible. Mhm.
You see what I mean? And and I had another woman. She was in We were in a mentorship group together. This was the same mentor that helped me share my story. But she went through domestic violence. She went through the same thing. So I gave her the tools and techniques to, better understand, like, who are you? This is who you truly are right now.
It's incredible.
Yeah, because she went through a dark place in her life. She, and I, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Yes. So, ladies, please book a call with me. I want to get to know you. I want, this is going to be a very intimate conversation of how I can help you break your silence and move into ownership. Because this is a rediscovery. It's not a one session and that's it. This is 9 weeks. We work together for 3 months. We have weekly live Zoom calls. I offer customized support. And believe me when I tell you, it will be worth it. There is nothing more empowering than investing in yourself.
Mm, well said.
Invest in you because you know what? You are worthy.
Absolutely.
Right. I became a published author and now I am working on more speaking events. And also, I am going to be featured as a contributing author in a magazine publication out of the UK. It will be published next month. I just found out this morning.
Wonderful. It's so wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank
I'm
you. And that
so
also
excited to
all over the
see
world.
all of this unfold because you have the heart to serve and to
Right.
help
Thank you.
others. And when that happens, it just the blessings come back to you. And it's an amazing thing to turn your struggle and create empowerment from it. So I'm going to ask you, I noticed you said a couple of things repetitively throughout this time we've been
Sure.
talking, but I'm going to ask you for 3 steps to move from struggle wherever you're at, whether it's in an abusive situation or whatever your struggle is right now, or whoever's struggle is right now. How can they move towards empowering themselves and transforming in their life? And what I heard you say already was, first, change the story of yourself. Okay. Make a plan.
Mm-hmm.
I heard more than 3, but I'm going to ask you for your top 3. Seek support,
Right.
right? And get a mentor and a
Exactly.
coach.
Right.
So what 3 things would you add to that or go deeper into of those for people who need that to hear this right now?
Yes, that's a very good question. What I would first of all recognize it.
Mhm.
Recognize that you're in this abusive relationship and take ownership immediately. Surrender. That's what I had. That's what I did. I surrendered and that was it. And do not be afraid to seek help. Seek help. I was talking about seeking a therapist, and I talk a lot about loving yourself. Love you. Love on yourself. That's part of the healing process. So during my journey, I loved myself. I would take myself out to dinner. Take yourself out on a date. Go out to dinner by yourself. Go out for a little lunch. Go to a coffee shop. It doesn't have to be anything expensive. Go for a walk in the park. And actually, before I moved up here, I would make trips up here, and because I was apartment hunting, and I would take a walk in the park and I would stand by the carousel. I'd be meditating, focus on gratitude, do a gratitude meditation. I do mindfulness meditation and also reprogramming your subconscious mind.
Mm,
That's where, yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Reprogramming your subconscious mind. And because we speak life into ourselves. So if you're going to say to yourself, my life sucks, guess what? You're going to attract the wrong people in your life. When you say to yourself, I am worthy, I am resilient, I will like when we speak positivity into our lives, you attract positivity. You attract the right people in your life, and the world of abundance opens up. So those would be my top three.
Amazing. I love that you mentioned reprogramming because we are programmed from the
Mm,
time we're born with, and so whatever your parents told you, um, and modeled to you, because we're programmed by the behaviors that we witness as well,
mm,
right? Whatever that was that made you feel less than, because when we're children, we personalize everything, right? So if
right.
dad's cheating on mom, we personalize it.
Mm,
If mom leaves dad, we personalize it. We make it about ourselves because we're children, don't know any better than that. And that's just the way our minds work. And so from the until you're 12 years old, basically everything's programming you. Once you're an adult, you repetition programs you, as
right.
well as being in a theta state, which is the state right before you're falling asleep, and the state as you're waking up from a sleep, right?
Mm,
That's your theta state. So the way to do this, and I am a huge champion of reprogramming. Like this is how I've achieved everything in my life, has been reconditioning myself, re-educating myself, and reprogramming myself with
mm,
a different story
right.
that eliminates limiting beliefs and that
Exactly.
silences other people's projections of what I can and cannot do. So it takes time, but they say it takes like 30 days. I usually do 90 days or more, and I get
Mm,
very, very specific on what I'm trying to reprogram. So if you have this thought that you're not enough, go onto YouTube
mm.
and Google or look up, it's all Google anyway, but like um look up self-love affirmations, or
There you go.
I am enough affirmations,
Mm,
or confidence affirmations, or and that kind of thing. And then you listen to that throughout the day as you're driving, when you fall asleep, just repeat it for at least 90 days. That's the technique that works for me. So I'm sharing. Okay.
actually, I practice self love affirmations every morning.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to stop. You
It
can
doesn't
do
have
it
to stop.
forever.
Just keep going. Just
Yeah,
do it
just
every
keep going.
day. Make it part of your, I call
Mhm.
it DMO, your morning routine. Make it,
Mhm.
or and throughout the day too, because that is going to elevate your vibration too. You're going
Yes.
to be in this high state, in this
Mhm.
higher state, and when you shift your beliefs, you shift your life. Your life will start to shift, which has happened to me. Has
Mhm.
happened to both of us,
Yes.
and it puts you in a state of love, joy, and peace. Like be in the, so in other words, be in the present moment. And I teach my clients this also. Being in the present moment. Throw that anxiety and fear out the window. It's out. It's out the window. And focus on bringing joy, love, and peace. That's all you need in your life, honestly. And the rest will fall into place.
I definitely agree with that. I think that so when you talked about mentors, I have a few. My friend Kelly, Brian
Ooh.
Rose, of course, and I am a huge, I don't know if people know this, but I love Tony Robbins.
Oh, me
Also,
too. I
I
attended this
love,
last event,
yeah, I think he
virtual
was taught
event.
a lot by Jim Rohn as well.
Mm,
And these old school guys who were really about that positive motivation and stuff like that.
yeah.
And I mean,
Yes.
some people laugh at it, and no, you can't be positive 24/7, but it's also a choice, right? It's also perspective. And so, one of the things that Tony Robbins always says is that you have to change your emotional state and your
Mm,
story. So you change your emotional state, which is bringing in that peace, love, and joy into your life. You change the story you're telling yourself, and then you create a strategy of some action steps to take your life from where it is right now to where you want it to be. So, and I always say, this is my add-in. I always say, baby steps if you have to, but take the step.
right.
Break your action steps down into baby steps if you feel overwhelmed looking at it, if it's giving you anxiety because it feels like getting out of this situation is going to be so much. You know what? You have to start somewhere. So when you're
Exactly.
making your plan, give yourself some action steps. First, you have to want it. You have to decide, like you said, recognize I'm in this situation and it's up to me to get myself out. No one's coming to save me. Right.
That's right. No
And
one's
then,
coming to save you. You have to save yourself. That was my, that was the big thing for me. I saved myself. Yes, I did seek help,
mhm,
but ultimately they
it
can't
was
save
you.
me. I'm the only one who could save myself.
I mean, you had to make that choice. You had to say, okay, enough isn't. So even if you go online, like you said earlier, and you look up, women and children's shelters near me, if you
Mm.
look up the domestic violence hotline, you look up, the child abuse hotline, whatever it
Oh
is you're
yeah.
looking for, you need help with. There are people who really sit there. So I will do a vulnerable share right now just to illustrate this point.
Sure.
I met a girl, a friend of my child's,
Mm.
and I noticed that she had a black eye, right?
Uh-oh.
Like
Uh-huh.
underneath. So I said to my son's girlfriend, I said, "Hey, did she get that in karate? Because they take karate together."
Oh.
And she said, no. And I knew because, as I said, if you listen to this podcast, you will have heard me say a million times that I am a child abuse survivor. So a different type of abuse than
Wow.
domestic abuse, like from a partner, but it is still abuse by someone who's supposed to love and protect you, right? And so immediately I felt like I need to do something, but she did not disclose to me. So there's not much that I can do, right?
Right.
But I still called. I Googled, just like you said, child abuse hotline.
Right.
And I called up and I asked questions about how I could help this girl once she disclosed to me. So as she comes to my house more and more, when she gets comfortable with me, then I can maybe help her. But I needed to know what to do. I needed to have a plan when that moment happened of how to help this child,
Right.
right? Because once you're a survivor, you have that heart to serve and you don't want to see anyone else suffering the way you had to suffer. You have great empathy and great compassion for those who are in the situation that you were once in, right?
Exactly.
So I think that, doing that stuff, like looking up, how do I get help? What are the steps I can take? And then putting that plan in place, like you said, you need an exit strategy. And sometimes that exit strategy is like slowly putting money aside very
Mm.
carefully, like finding ways to you know, get your way out of that relationship without the least amount of drama and pain for you. And sometimes you're not that lucky. You just have to take what you can and run like hell.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. No doubt about it. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love everything that you said. And I think a lot of that, even if you can't leave the relationship right away, like,
Mm.
and you're still trying to figure out how to get out, you can do the other things, right? You can start with a self love practice. You can
Right.
start with little things to reprogram your mind to build the confidence and the courage to leave the relationship,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. And that's what I did.
hmm Sometimes
I,
it's not as quick as getting out right away. It's sometimes you might have to be in it another year, another
yeah,
2
I
years
was
while
in it
you're.
another year, living like a
Yeah,
gypsy. I was in it another year. So if I could do it, you could do it.
absolutely.
And it may take a year because the court, especially if you have children, it's a process.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's a
it
whole
takes
nother,
time.
that's a
It
whole
takes
nother
time,
process.
and it's also hard because a lot of people love the person who's abusing them. Even still.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It
Oh,
it's not
that's
so easy, it's complicated.
right. At one point, my dad thought it was my fault. I'm like, no, it's not my fault. Remember when I told you this? Yeah, then he,
That
that
brings
was
up
a moment.
that brings up a good point about sometimes the abuser has everyone around you, everyone around you charmed. Like a
Oh
good
yeah,
narcissist or a psychopath, like
they're
sociopath,
charmers. They're charmers.
so charming. Everybody loves them. What? Not him. It can't be. You must. What did you do? Like victim shaming and all of these things that you have
Oh
to go
yeah.
through. but you have to stay resilient and strong and just keep with your affirmations and your reprogramming, because you, in your soul, you know the truth for you.
Exactly. Exactly. That's right. That's right.
You know the
Absolutely.
truth for you. So the people around you may not believe you, you know, and if that's the case, then like we said earlier, go to the services that are provided, or then look
Right.
for not-for-profit in
That's another
your
avenue.
areas.
Here we
Mhm,
have a local non-for-profit. You can go to a local non-for-profit. Yes.
mhm,
Look for those resources. You know what I did? I went to the local library. I didn't have a computer. I had a smartphone, but I didn't have a computer. So I went to the library.
mhm.
Didn't cost me anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, be resourceful.
Yeah, and you can do it. You can change. You
Mhm.
can change everything. I always think of that movie, that old Will Smith movie, The Pursuit of Happiness.
Oh,
You
yes,
know, it's
yes.
so inspiring, but it based on a true story, and it's true. Like, you can be, in a shelter and be in that shelter and then completely transform your life, and you don't know how far. There's no limit to the sky. You don't know how far life can take you once you realize that you can do it and you start taking steps in place. Of course, you need a mentor, and probably I always tell people I had two mentors and a coach,
Oh,
right?
yeah. I have a
Right?
mentor now. I have
Yeah.
a mentor. I actually have two mentors.
Yeah, 2
And a
mentors
coach.
and a coach got me here. Now I've added in another mentor,
Great.
and where else am I going? There's no limit to the sky. Once you're
That's
open to
right.
the possibilities and know that you're worthy and that you deserve the best possible life, and that it's to take accountability, like you said, that you are
Sure.
the creator of your life, your conditions can change. They don't have to hold you back once you change your thinking.
Exactly. Exactly. It's all up here in the mind,
Mhm,
mindset.
mhm. Mhm, and that's why the coaching I do is always about mindset. It's
That's great.
always
Yeah,
very deeply part of any coaching, even the podcast coaching. A lot of it is mindset,
sure it
because
is.
without the story that you're telling yourself is what will keep you stuck in your comfort zone, and nothing ever grows in a comfort zone,
Mm-mm.
right? You just stagnate, and then life feels, if you're unhappy in your life, more than likely because you're stagnant in your life, and you
Exactly.
have to change, you know? And that's not even just for abuse survivors, that's like for anyone in any sort of struggle that feels hopeless. It's the story that you're telling yourself about what you can and can't do.
Exactly. Exactly.
It all almost always comes back to some type of limiting belief. So mindset work
Exactly.
is very, very, very important. If you don't
Oh,
do
it
it with
is.
me, if you don't do it with Angeline, at least do it. Go online, go to YouTube. There's tons of resources out there,
Oh,
and
yes.
start changing your thoughts, the way you're thinking. It's a practice, right, Angeline? It's not
Oh,
something
yes.
that you just
Oh,
watch a
no.
video
Oh,
and it's
no.
suddenly done, right? Oops, I got it. I'm good.
Change
No,
your
it's a
thoughts,
practice.
change your reality. We
Every
are the
day.
creators of our own reality. And we
Mhm,
only have one life to live.
mhm.
So life is worth living. So live it.
An enjoyable life, a
And
passionate life, one
right,
that you love
exactly.
waking up to every day, and you say, and you're not like, "Ugh, not
I
another
know,
day."
not another
It's
day.
right, it's like, "Yes, another day living this
Yes,
amazing, juicy, beautiful life." And
exactly.
if you want to live that life, then you definitely should reach out to Angeline. And if, especially if you're surviving, or if you're in an abusive situation, or surviving an abusive situation, and you want to thrive, then
Mhm.
definitely reach out to Angeline. She can be your mentor, she can be your coach,
Yeah,
and help you do that. I think it's so incredibly important that you definitely connect with her, and definitely, listen to her podcast. You can listen anywhere you get podcasts.
that's right.
So just
Spotify, Apple, YouTube,
yes.
all on my website, letsbreakthesilence.com.
There it is. So
There it
you can
is.
see it and copy it down. Um, Google her and see what she's doing, because she's here in this space to help you go from victim to victor, to be victorious in your life, to be living. I like to say, to live your best life possible, right?
I
That's
like
my,
that. I like
you
that.
know, and that's what it is. That's what
Right.
we do. And a lot of the guests on Hot Topics Live come here with the hope of helping people to live their best life possible, no matter the topic, whether it's business or
Sure.
romantic or spirituality or health and fitness or anti-aging, or all the topics that we discuss on
I love your
Topics
podcast.
Live.
I
Yeah.
listen to your podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And
Of
I appreciate
course.
you always being an amazing guest. I want to
Thank
thank
you.
you so much. Are there any last things you want to share with everyone before we part ways for today?
Yes, everyone. Yes, yes, yes. Trust and believe in yourself and trust the process. You will get to the other side and live your best life possible. You will regain your power as long as you put in the work, and as long you know. And I always say, and I'm pretty blunt about this, stop playing the victim. And
Mm.
yeah, stop playing the victim, because so many women out there are addicted to suffering. It's part of the human condition. Yeah, it's part of the human condition. So we have to snap out of it. Just snap out of it, recognize it, and take steps and make a plan. Always have an exit plan.
Agreed.
Right.
Yeah, agreed. I
So you
don't,
can,
oh my gosh, powerful words.
thank you. That just came out.
Yeah, I love, you said stop playing the victim. That is really powerful, because we can get stuck. People don't realize, like, being a victim can be your comfort zone,
There you
right?
go.
So don't get stuck in that. Like, and I love brutal honest, like, you have to be brutally honest with yourself. Is that
Exactly.
what I'm doing?
Good.
Is that what I'm doing? Am I stuck playing
Right.
the victim? And what do I do to change that?
Exactly.
Really beautifully said, Angeline. I really appreciate you coming and being on Hot Topics Live. I appreciate you so much.
I appreciate
And we're going to wrap it up for Instagram. So I only have 1 hour on Instagram. And so I just want to say to everyone who watched on Instagram, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to be coming live on Instagram more. If you want to finish the last few minutes of this episode, you have to jump on over to Facebook or YouTube. It will be up on Spotify eventually. I just hired staff, so we're changing things, and
Oh,
things
good.
are moving forward. So there's going to be a lot more upcoming for Hot Topics Live. The shorts, the short form videos, lots of repurposed content from the older episodes people missed that were amazing before I started promoting the YouTube channel. And so there's a lot coming. So stay tuned. Follow me on Instagram if you're not already. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and grow with me. Come on this journey with me. So thanks for watching Instagram, and I will see you guys in maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I'm traveling, so I'm not sure if I'm going to come live then, but I'll see you soon with another great guest. And for everyone else watching, I want to say thank you to Angeline for being here. I appreciate you so, so much. And I love every time you're a guest on this show. This one was probably my favorite, even. They just get better and better. And
Yay.
I can't wait to have you back. And we'll talk about what all the cool stuff you're doing next, because we know there's more to
Absolutely.
come.
I know. Every time I come back to something new, but that's how life is. That's how life is.
When you're
Yes,
growing and thriving,
that's
right?
right. When you're growing and thriving, amazing things happen.
That's awesome. Well, for now, I'm going to put you in the green room. If you have to go, because I know you have a busy life, you're very in demand, I will understand, and I will catch up with you on the
Okay.
various social channels we connect on. If you do have time, I have a few minutes after I
I
wrap
have
the
a few
show,
minutes
and we
afterwards
can
too.
say
I
a
want to
proper.
talk to you. Yes.
Oh, great. Awesome. So I'll see you in a few minutes, and see you soon.
Everyone. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
So that was incredible. Angeline is such a gift. She really has a heart to serve, and that matters a lot to me for as someone who served in the United States military, as someone who continues to serve the female veteran community, as well as all of you with my hobby podcast, Hot Topics Live podcast. Now, I have a favor to ask of you. If you have made it this far, you're definitely part of my tribe. So go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Set your notification so you know when I come live. And then go over to Instagram, look for Hot Topics Live podcast, and follow me there. Okay. There's going to be a lot more content coming, a lot more cool stuff I'm going to be doing, and a lot more awesome guests coming this way to share with you lots of cool stuff to help you, like I like to say, live your best life. So at this part of the show, I'd like to remind you about my pinup journey. Follow it. Speaking of writing articles for a magazine, I am going to be writing, like blogging a little bit about my pinup journey in a magazine with my darling friend, Dawn Garcia. She has a magazine called A Taste of Dawn and lots of other stuff that she does. So I'm going to be writing about my pinup journey there, but I'm just getting started. I am a Gen X pinup. It's never too late to live a new dream, to create something new in your life. This is one of the magazines I'm in. This is obviously not me on the cover, although she likes the same color hair I like. But I'm in here. And if you like classy, sexy, gorgeous, amazing pictures, right? You can follow me at Creativity. It's right there on the screen, and follow my pinup journey and see everything that I'm posting there, follow my stories and stuff. And definitely comment when I post. I like to talk to people on here, and I'm actually getting better at it, especially on YouTube. So leave me a comment. I like the comments. Just be polite, because I think it's good karma. If you're not polite to me, I'm a magical woman. Okay, it's not going to be good for you. No, I'm just kidding. But moving on, the special end of show gift that I like to part with for all of you. So what these are these are cards, and these are called the Soul Truth Self-Awareness Card Deck, right? It's by Brianne Hovey. Okay. For those of you who like cards, you know what I'm talking about. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle these kind of like I'm playing cards, like it's a game. And I want you to close your eyes. Just trust me on this. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Hold it, maybe for a count of 4. Let it out for a count of 4, or just let it out slowly. And I want you to focus on whatever your higher power is, or your higher self, or whatever you believe, whether it's God, Allah, whatever it is for you, right? A god, a goddess. I don't judge, okay? And you're going to focus in on receiving a message from them that's just meant just for you, okay? This message is just from you, from your higher source, your higher power, your higher self. I don't care what you believe in. I love everybody. I love you all. Okay? And this message is for you. I'm going to take the card that flies out. Oh, it came out already. And I'm going to read it to you. And this is your message. Are you ready? Take another deep breath. Get ready to receive. Here we go. This is your card. It says, am I getting enough rest to restore my energy and fully show up to my life? Who's getting dragged? But listen up. You are the asset. This body is your vehicle. Notice how your body is feeling, how much sleep you're getting, and what you can do to help your body rest. Today's soul action: take a bath, put on some lavender essential oil, go to bed ridiculously early, or give yourself a timeout today. Take a mental health day, Notice your body thanking you. Today's mantra, you can just repeat this over and over. The more I give myself permission to rest, the more I can contribute. I don't know about you, but I'm tired. I am always doing things. I have kids, I have podcasts, I have coaching clients, I have other projects for my company, Magnum Opus Multimedia. I am coaching with London Real Academy and Brian Rose's team. I have so much going on, and I also try to be active and physical. I take care of my dog. We all have so many things going on in our life. It's easy to forget that we need to rest. So I hope you will take that message in and receive it with all the love and positive energy that I'm sending to you. And tune in. Actually, I will say set your notifications because I just come live when I come live. And I'm going to start coming live, just me, with little bits of coaching advice just for free for anyone who tunes in and who is open to receive it and it can benefit you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, set your notifications, and you can listen to this podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. And come follow me. Well, remember, you are worthy, you are enough, and you deserve to be living your best life possible. And it all starts with you. And I'm here to help you achieve it. I love you guys, and I will talk to you next time.